Hello, everyone. welcome, welcome to another episode of What the Effie. And for those of you that are just coming in contact with me, you should know that this is my third year that we are starting, and I'm putting it into two classifications: co-living, and there will also be a different one, which is capital raising a little bit later. John Riordan, my guest today, falls under co-living. So I'm using my this. You're seeing my brand for the first time. All right.
Oh, it's good. I gotta make mine so much better.
Hey, we got to have fun with it. So I want to say, Jordan, thank you very, very much for coming on. I appreciate you so much. And also, tell the audience where you are right now, Jordan.
So currently I'm in Central Europe. It is cold and then it's hot and then it's cold again. So it is actually Good Friday today. So we're in the middle of the spring storm season, and I am so glad that we have clear weather for this actual podcast.
Fantastic. Well, I want to say thank you too. And you know what? Chicagoland says tomorrow there will be extreme weather changes. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I think it's happening to a lot of places. But I want to say thank you very much for being here. John and I are in, we share a community of, we're both in Sub 2, which is Pace Morby's community, and it focuses on real estate. And we both happen to be interested in co living. So, John, I have a screen here which tells me a little bit about the sort of things that you are interested in. So, let's talk about this a little bit. I see single family homes and I see small
Mhm.
multifamily for affordable housing. Okay, so talk about the locations.
Yeah, absolutely. So I live in Colorado Springs. It's where I'm comfortable. That's where I have most of my single family houses right now. Looking at small multifamily in the space and developing my systems and processes there.
Mhm.
My wife is actually from Denver, so I know it very well. We go up there all the time, so I'm also comfortable there. And then North Carolina, both Charlotte and Fayetteville. I lived over there for many years. I still have a bunch of connections in the area, some agents, property managers, that type of thing. And of course, Sub 2 being national, it's as easy as me picking up the phone with the hundreds of people that I've met since joining November of 22, and I mean it's a reliable source of individuals who are in the same mind space.
Right.
So yeah, it's
So,
amazing.
when you were in Charlotte and Fayetteville, were you with the Army?
Yep, yep. I went down there for training, and I'm always going back to Fayetteville. It's the largest army base, um,
Oh, I didn't know that. Is that the largest
personnel
one?
wise. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. So
Very
it's
interesting.
great for investing if you're trying to serve veteran populations. And there's lots of training that happens out of Fort Bragg. So if you're looking at trying to capture kind of those like lower enlisted or lower officer ranks where they're only there for a little bit, medium term rental, or I mean, some of them can be there for over a year. So even that, they definitely, I don't want to say penny pinch, but that's the term that comes to mind. So
Wow. Well, that's pretty cool. And I see you've got the single family houses and small multifamily. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Right now, do you have any co living properties?
now you cut off again, and that's because some thunder rolled through. Um, yeah,
Okay.
of course, that's
I'm
okay.
asking about
Um,
single family properties. Do you have any already?
uh, Let me try and get you a different way, Effie. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay, try talking now.
I'd like to know about your single family properties. Do you have any already?
So I currently own five single-family properties,
Right.
four of which are actually being rented out right now, two of which are strictly co-living. The other two um, I have are long-term single-family, one of which is a single mother and her four children. And then the other is my long-term renters when I first started actually focusing on real estate 3 years ago. So I don't want to mess with them. They're paying well over what I'm paying for the property. So
Right.
I'm willing to take that in order to keep them secure in that property. So, but it is a six-bedroom, two bath, and it is perfect for co-living. So I'm trying to find them a good place to actually buy or wrap so that I can turn that one into co-living as well.
All right. When the right time comes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Very nice. Um, so for small multifamily, do you have any already, or will this be a new area for you?
It will be a new area for me. Over the past year since Squat Up Summit 2024, I really got clarity on what I want to see out of my portfolio and the performance. I was all over the place. I started trying to wholesale to get money. I started to connect because I met so many people and wholesaling just wasn't working while I was deployed. So I just tried all these things, and then Squat Up Summit happened, got slapped upside the head, and I got just immense clarity from all the individuals I met. And I believe I met you down in Orlando in person. I think I have a picture or two, but just so many people. And I understand we just came back from Squat Up. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, and there were like 1,500 more people. I was like, holy cow. Um, but over the past year, I've been comping, walking through, losing some money on um, inspections and walkthroughs on some small multifamily. So, you're going to lose a little bit when you're actually diving down into some of these places. So just be prepared for that if you haven't started on that. And
I like to
yeah,
see it as not losing. I like to see it as being saved from a loss.
yes, yep,
Because if people say you can do real estate without any money at all. Hmm, okay, whatever. I think that you do have to have some money, and I think you need to spend it wisely. And spending it on a sewer inspection or, a property inspection or whatever, foundation, whatever is necessary, title check, all these things that do add up. I think that they save you from going into a bad situation. So I just put it like when I find the good situation, I kind of think of that cost being to get to that one
yeah,
and that it saved me not getting into a bad one. But I understand what you're saying. You don't see an immediate return on that. Okay, so that's really cool. And talking about renovations, you're talking about basically, um, you know, uh, turnkey in a big way, right?
correct. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just going to have to be bought a little bit deeper. I acquire the properties 100% with PMLs or PMPs. I'm always looking to bring additional members onto the team. Um, And, if you want a just slam dunk assignment fee or large percentage as an agent off of the acquisition, it has to be a slam dunk deal for the portfolio in general because, not only am I helping the people that are going to occupy these houses, it also has to be good for the team.
Of course. Why are HVAC and water heater repairs okay?
So this last property that I acquired, nobody wanted to touch it because of the condition, the location, and the water heater and HVAC were older. Um, Although those are larger repairs, you're going to repair it once, and the expectation is that those things are not going to fail on you for at least 7.5 to 10 years.
Right.
And yeah, that's typically when we're seeing um, balloon payments for a lot of the creative deals, at least,
Right.
is that people want that. And, you know, they ask for 3 years, but I'm like, no, I need at least 7.5. I'm sorry, for
There you
appreciation
go.
purposes. So,
There you go. All right. So talk to us just a little bit about the numbers.
yep.
You've got them in front of us. Tell us why that. What's going on with an entry fee? You want to stay below 15% on ARV. Why?
Yep, absolutely. Because I'm looking at more turnkey. So we're going to get closer to that 15% ARV. Um, that is important because we need the value add. We need the ability to place a PML or PMP, depending on what they want to do and how they want to be a part of this deal.
Mhm.
And to me, between 12 and 15% is good security. And then we are actually, because this is for affordable housing, and let me be clear, like there's a, hmm, I don't think I could do it very eloquently, but all co-living is affordable, but not all affordable is co-living,
Not
if
all
that makes sense.
affordable. Wait, not
And
all
how,
affordable.
so like in Colorado Springs,
Uh-huh.
the price of acquisition, I cannot get a single family long-term rental to work. So now I
Got
have
it.
to move into co-living,
Yep.
and it spreads out the cost per tenant, but it's greater overall. So
Yep.
we're able to cash flow, and we're able to put people into these properties. Now, when it comes to the 15% ARV, that's the maximum because that gives us some buffer room as a partnership when I have PMPs involved. If it's going to be a PML deal, they're going to want to see at least 20% of ARV so that if something happens and they have to take over the property, not that that has ever happened or will ever happen. I have 7 mortgages on myself. Banks continue to
Okay.
give me money,
Mhm.
um, to include one that I just closed on a primary at 100% loan to value. So
Oh, nice. Wait,
um,
primary?
primary, yeah, VA loan, but
Oh,
even
good.
with
Good.
over $2 million in debt on less than $100,000 intake from my
Yep.
W-2 per
Yep.
year, they will lend to me all day. So like
Very nice.
it depends on several factors,
Yep.
basically. So yeah,
Cool. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to take this down so we can see each other a little bit better because I do want you to talk about you as the investor, but you don't need to see it because you know it. So
yeah.
talk to us.
Yep. So I studied architecture for 2 years after high school. Thought that was going well, but I was a terrible student outside of actual architecture classes. I didn't care about, all the gen eds. And then, growing up in my household, it wasn't very draconian, but I had a very strict schedule. And then all of a sudden, I didn't have that strict schedule anymore. And now I'm 18 years old on my own, and it was just like, whatever. Doing great with the actual architecture stuff. I still hold that near and dear to my heart. And then something actually happened with my FAFSA on the money side. So I wasn't able to continue after my second year, just due to that. And I was like, hey, how am I going to pay for college?
Right.
And I knew that the Army, through the various marketing campaigns, salesmanship is still alive and well in the military.
Good.
They were going to pay for my college. So joined up with them, and 20 years later, I'm still uh, in the military, and I am looking at actually retiring here in about 12 to 18 months. Um,
Congratulations.
yeah,
And thank you for
the
your service very much.
no, thank you very much for like paying your taxes. I get to go to great places like, in tents where there are thunderstorms and like the desert, the jungle, where I'm pretty sure I caught something just from scratching my arm. No, it's great. But no,
I
seriously, thank you
gotcha.
so much for that.
Yeah, I got you.
But
It goes both ways.
yeah, oh yeah. I was a non-commissioned officer, so I led troops for the first 12 years in the military. And then over the past 8 years, I'm a warrant officer. I'm a Green Beret. So we do very exquisite things in small groups, cross-functional teams. It's all I know. I've worked out of embassies. Largest organization that I have been in charge of was almost 800 folks as an operations officer.
Wow.
Personally, I was a program manager for a 450 person, $3.2 million operating budget per year organization. Um, and that was just a fantastic experience. We spoke four different languages
Oh, nice.
um, inside of the organization, and yeah, it couldn't have been beaten by anything else at the time, at least. And
Very nice.
so,
Very
in the
nice.
past 2 years, I've gotten my certified project director certification from the Project Management Institute, because that's frankly
Now,
what we do.
certified project director, is that um, in the capacity of real estate or in the capacity of the army or what?
No, it's leading teams. It's a civilian certification um, from, yeah, the International Project Management Institute. Yeah,
I gotcha. Okay, very nice. And the army helped alleviate the fact that you didn't have funds to go to school when the FAFSA stuff happened.
correct.
And did you finish?
Not architecture. I got a degree in social psychology.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
just for just being in the military, we deal a lot with individuals of various cultures. So I found that interesting. And now it's porting over into all of the different sectors of society that I'm trying to help, at least. You know, we got young professionals, single mothers, and struggling families inside the houses now. So,
Let's talk about those groups.
hmm
Repeat them again and tell me why you chose those particular groups.
absolutely. So the first one, single mothers. I knew this answer 14 years ago, and I should have, kicked myself in the butt when I actually determined this, because when I was struggling on finding my way with real estate, I already had the answer in my back pocket. And my sister was in a bad spot. We're from south side of Chicago, so she was not with the best group of people. And she had two little ones. Her boyfriend of 20 years had just a bunch of issues. Like
Okay.
he was on probation and so on and so on and so on and so on. So when I was deploying 6 months on, 6 months off, right around 2010, I said, "Hey, her name's Teresa. Teresa, come out here, bring the kids. You can stay in." At the time, I only had a apartment. She stayed in the apartment. Well, my mom was also living with me because my parents got divorced and they were selling the house and she had no way to go. So my sister was staying for 6 to 8 months with us, and then I bought a house,
Mhm.
and then she lived in the basement, 2 bedroom, one bath down there, and she stayed there for a couple of years while she got on her feet. Now she is the grant writer, or a grant writer for federal funding for the state of Colorado. She has a couple of houses herself, a couple of cars, two teenagers. Like, where did the time go? It's like my niece is 16, about ready to drive. So it's like, wow. And so that was,
So
I saw,
she's learned to write grants.
yes.
Is it specifically for helping women or just grants in general? Because grants is a huge
Yeah.
area.
So she initially started the county for Colorado Springs is El Paso County. She
Mhm.
was a welfare case officer, and then
Okay.
she moved up to getting state funding. She just moved offices to secure funding for the welfare department, and then she moved over to the state level, and now she's securing federal funding for different welfare programs um,
Nice.
from the federal government. Yeah.
Okay, so not only did you have the experience of knowing how important it is to help a single mom, but your sister's in a position where she writes grants for different social agencies. So now you can see how that could work together to help with co-living.
Oh yes. Yep. And it's really right now. I'm solopreneuring. I have a couple of people we have JV agreements with.
Mhm.
Um, once I'm done and actually firmly on the way out of the military, I'm definitely going to have partnerships more so than PMPs. And one of those individuals are going to find the funding, the federal funding, because that's important, right? That's one of the pillars of investing. And just looking for private money is great and all, but once you start to get into the counties, once you start to get into federal funding, where there's a line of accounting at the governmental level, that is where the real power is
Right.
for some of these, for some of the sectors. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. And it's also, I think, like one of the reasons people enjoy Section 8 is because they can depend on the government funding.
Yes.
And it's interesting. You actually haven't listed Section 8. Are you thinking of Section 8 at all?
So Section 8, yes, but wish I brought that up. But yeah, I listed out a bunch of things on one of my other Canva
Oh, yeah.
marketing flyers.
Yeah, yeah. Hang on. Actually, I see it right here. My apologies. I should have
Okay. Oh, I
shared
did send
that.
it to you. Okay,
Oh,
excellent.
yeah, you did. All right, here we go. So, when we're talking about who you're going to help, I can
Hmm.
see that you've got the single mothers, the DV survivors. Okay, good. The crash pad, the disabled veterans, and medical staff, of course, and Section 8. Okay, got it. Now, that's very interesting because you also have residential assisted living and youth housing, struggling families. Okay, so you're really into the social aspect.
Correct.
That's
I,
good.
I don't do pad split. I do traditional rent by the room co-living houses, and I try to make it a household where I take on that dare I say, parental figure, where when we are growing up,
Yep,
we know the rules of the house.
yep.
There's little to no question until our teenage years. However, I want to give these adults the rules to live by, and then I also give them the ability to change those rules. And I force, more or less, them to talk with one another. Whereas some other co-living styles, you are reducing conflict by reducing interaction, and I don't
Right.
agree with that.
Yeah, it's
Th-
interesting that there are so many different models, right? So I agree with what you're saying that in some situations, um, it's not encouraged to um, commingle in any way or get to know each other.
mhm.
So that can take less space because you don't need a dining area. You just need a kitchen. You don't need living rooms and that sort of thing. But if you want to build a long-term community in that home, having those spaces would be very helpful because it gives them a place to commune. And if you give them the power to change some of the rules, now they're going to become their own little pod.
Correct. And there was a study done, and it's still very new with a lot of these studies. 9 to 10% of people who live in co-living houses, the primary reason that they're living there is for community, is to be with other people because of loneliness, more so than just financial reasons. And we find this in young professionals. We find this in domestic violence survivors. Um, I forget her name. She's down in, I believe, Tampa or Miami, and she focuses on domestic violence survivors. And she finds through the different case officers that's actually preferred that two of these ladies share rooms just for camaraderie. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Um,
That's
and
interesting.
on this slide, you see I deliberately put the spaces in there with the top, the young professionals and struggling families in the middle, and then the residential and assisted living and youth housing.
Got it.
I want to point out kind of in reverse order. So the bottom ones, I'm not going to move into for a little while, and because those are separate businesses. For example, residential assisted living, a lot of the regulations, you have to have a registered nurse on
Yeah.
your staff that's available 24/7, stuff like that. And
Yeah, you need rules to make sure that these people are being taken care of in a different way because they can't speak for themselves as much. Same with youth housing. You know, the youth can be taken advantage of. So these require special protections and special licensing. So that does require specialization and also more expense because you have to
yes,
be ready to put out for the right people. And it can't just be a nurse's assistant. It has to be a nurse, and a doctor needs to visit every so often, things of that sort. So they're more complex for sure.
yes. And also your renovations will probably turn out to be a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
more complex, and the resale value of your house is probably going to decrease because
Yeah.
you're going to have to
Because it's
widen
already,
hallways,
yeah,
weirdly so. Go
it's
ahead.
niched. It's niche. So your market is really small on who's going to be interested in buying it.
Correct. And then that middle group, that's actually, I want to say, easily found, unfortunately, through Facebook, Marketplace, through different Facebook groups, and then Zillow. I have tons of people reaching out, Roomies, Roomster, those types of sites.
Yep.
There's people actively looking. Whereas that top group, single mothers, domestic violence survivors, crash pads, all of that, the best way to find these individuals is by actually going to organizations.
That
So
service them.
one of my JV partners, he specializes in outreach to nonprofit organizations for veterans and for single mothers. So having the ability to interface with these individuals and create that long-term relationship,
Yep.
they're going to be the ones that kind of feed your houses with residents. I call them residents, not tenants, on purpose because I want them to feel at home.
Got it. That's nice. That's very nice. I can see that. That's awesome. Very nice. I love the picture that you chose of the house. It's a beautiful house. That's for cool, for sure.
Yep,
I
I
wish we were
lost that
always
one.
so lucky to find a 5,916 square foot house.
Yeah,
And when you look at the yard, it's not like it's postage stamp. It's got space. That's cool.
yeah. Unfortunately, we weren't able to pick this one up because the seller, I'm looking for teams, and I didn't have the person in the place at the right time, and the seller got a actual family to move into this one while we were also bidding on it. Um, so yeah, definitely, to your point, co-living, community, work together, guys. Like it's very important. But I just wanted to point this one out, and
Hmm.
it is sitting around $1 million. This is in a Class A area,
Hmm.
5 bed, 4 bath. But read the descriptions when you get into these things. And this was on the MLS
Hmm.
for over 6 months. This thing had a 3 bedroom, well, 3 room, 1.5 bath office attached to it. And you can see on the backside that like squarish
Yep.
portion
Right
on the
here.
right.
Yep.
Yep. That would have added 8 bedroom, 5.5 bath inside of
Oh,
that 6,000 square foot.
please, please. When you're looking at 59, almost 6,000 square feet, that's a lot of rooms
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that you can develop. There's no doubt about it. So the bedrooms have to be big in here to be just have 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. They have to be very large. They're not small. 2,800 square feet, which is approximately half, gives you 9 bedrooms. So this house should be able to give you probably like 15. That's a big community. If you were going to take them
Correct.
and use the living room and the dining room and that sort of thing. If you didn't want to do that much and make it more of a community, you'd keep some of those open areas, but you'd still be able to put in a lot of rooms. Because look at the garage area. Now, not all garages are suitable to convert to homes, but that's an often it's a common practice to you can wall them off and put windows and doors in there so that they can have their own private entrance, and it's just gorgeous. You stop using them as garages, obviously, but you can think that's going to be at least 3 bedrooms right there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, the space is humongous. That's awesome. Very nice.
And it all comes down to who you're trying to serve.
Yep.
To me, some people see dollar signs in their eyes, and when I'm talking with people, I caution them to the money's going to come. This is a very forgiving space. The house we just converted to co-living was not meant for co-living, and we're still cash flowing over $1,000 once our reserves are full.
Very nice. And you also
It,
have to keep in mind this is almost $1 million house. And you probably would need to spend at least, like, even though it's in really good condition, you'd probably be spending at least maybe 100,000, if not more, to convert it. So in order to get that, you know, money back as an investor, it does need to cash flow, and you do need to worry about things like abatement. So um, yeah, there's a lot to consider, and it does take money, but it also can be a very positive thing in the long run, and it can help out with the
yeah.
housing shortage. There's a terrible housing shortage, and
Well,
right
so,
right
yeah,
there.
somebody asked me about, why are you not a nonprofit? And my nonprofit will come, but we're just so nascent in the space that if I was a nonprofit, I'd probably be able to do this once a year. And how many people am I helping compared to still making it affordable? I only charge no more than 50% of the average median. I take the Section 8
Hmm.
spreadsheet and I look at 50% and 40%, and I look at a zip code, and I look at how much it costs for a one bed, one bath apartment if it's a master suite,
Hmm.
or a studio apartment if
Right.
it is just a regular one. And generally speaking, when you look at your Section 8 spreadsheet, it's going to be right at that 40 to 50% mark for how
Right.
much for affordability for rent.
Right.
So even though you are making a lot of money as a profit organization, it's still in that affordability factor for all these different
Right.
situations.
I think it's called a win-win. The
Absolutely.
bottom line is that if, as a real estate investor, if you cannot make a profit, then you cannot do bigger and better things. So it has to be profitable. As a lender, I'm not, when it comes to nonprofit or charity, that's one thing. I can decide where I want to spend however much I want each year, whether it's for animals or plants or people, it doesn't really matter. I can give of charity. But when I'm doing, real estate, it has to be able to stand on its own 2 feet. Otherwise, you're going to lose it. And then everybody has to get out. So that's not good. I,
Yeah. And I was just speaking, unfortunately, with one of my tenants yesterday who missed two payments, which
mm,
we moved him from monthly to weekly payments, even though he's on a perpetual lease. And I said, I have a Rolodex of individuals that are fighting to get your bedroom right now. So we have to figure something out. I gave him some tips and tricks. He outlined to me how he's working on his life, how, I changed jobs specifically because I wasn't able to pay my bills. And so, you know, sometimes it's not a fire and forget methodology. And I challenge people that it is not. Being a property manager for co-living means you're going to have late night conversations, and these aren't, they're not in this predicament
I know.
unless they needed to be, you
Well,
know?
and it can be something that's kind of stupid. I mean, I got a text from PadSplit. I woke up in the morning and there was a text. This was yesterday morning, and it had been sent at 10:30 at night. I was like, "What? What is this? Why haven't they contacted the property manager? Because I'm too far to manage it." And the person who was moving in had contacted them because they couldn't figure things out. Well, why are they moving in at 10 o'clock? Our last moment to move in is 7:30. So I don't even know what happened with that individual, like where they stayed, but it can be as silly as that. And I said to my property manager today, well, what happened? She goes, Ma, yeah, okay, we finally got him to come at a regular time. And I walked him through it over the phone, step by step by step, because he couldn't figure it out. I said, well, we can't have that happen again. We've got to let him know, don't even come near the house if you're looking to move in, if it's after 7:30, because there are people in there. They're going to probably be like, who the hell's trying to break in? So it can be as silly as that, like, I don't know how to work the lock or whatever. But you're always going to be, there will be things. And there are going to be more things because there are more people.
Yeah, and that, it's like small multifamily in a way where it's more under one roof,
Yep.
even though it's cheaper for maintenance. Now you're dealing with two, three, four plus,
Hmm.
as many families. But with co-living, if you don't have your house rules and you don't explain things, and here's the thing, we communicate by me explaining things to you in a way that you understand. You can explain until you're blue in the face, and if they're not understanding the house rules or why they have to do the chores, I have a chore board and it rotates every week just to keep it fair. Um, but even that's a house rule. It doesn't have to rotate. If you want to do the same chores week after week, talk with your housemates, actually
Right.
communicate with one another and
Yep.
understand one another because you're living together.
Yep. I agree. I agree. And one of the things that I'm implementing is I want the property manager, to go into every room once a month. And some people might say, well, what about my privacy? I'm like, no, no, no. It's a safety issue. We have to know that you are not eating in there and have bugs all over the place that are going to drive everybody else nuts, or that you have pets, or that you've got people that are in there, or that you're not dead. Okay, just because it's automatically coming out of your account, it's a safety check for the house. They don't have to do much, but they just have to go in and look around, and just note if there's a problem. And I think I, as somebody who would be renting a room, would be happy to say, yeah, sure, take a second. I want to be there if they want to be there. No problem. If I know that you're also going into everybody else's and that I'm not going to see creepy crawlies coming through the door because my roommate, you know, whatever. So it can be whatever it is, but you do need to be clear and you need to say, these are the rules for my home. And I like the idea that you're making them responsible as a group to keep the rules if it's going to be a longer term thing. You know, I haven't decided which way mine's going to go. We'll see. Time will tell. If I have
It's
the same people staying and they, it's not just like a couple of months, but longer term, I'll probably be proactive and say, hey, what do you like the most, or what do you want to change? Because I'm open. But not if it's changing all the time. Not if they're constantly coming and going. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, it is interesting how you can do it a million different ways. All these people that you have outlined are different kinds of people. So they have different needs.
and it's very tough to try and assume what somebody needs. So I try and make it as Spartan as possible and just have the conversation.
Yep.
It costs nothing to ask, but a few moments of your time, and it can change the outcome of a lot of different things. And well, once you have a larger portfolio, you can actually move people between houses
Yes, that's not
because now you're
uncommon,
not turning them
actually.
away.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's not uncommon. Hey, you know what? You'd be in a much better fit to go over here because I know that you never finished in engineering school, but you're an engineer mind. These guys are all engineers and they're fiddling around creating the next new thing. Want to go over there? Because you don't seem to be happy with the musicians or whatever.
Yep.
So I do think that's a great thing for sure. Um, or if they want to move up and they're going to be in a different neighborhood and you've got, the kind of home that you've shown here and they want to be on that, they're different needs. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
The biggest lesson that I have learned is not to do it alone. I tried to do wholesaling alone. Connections was great, but I was making smaller teams. I because of me being an operations officer, I just naturally gravitated towards teamwork. And what I found is that people are more comfortable, especially lenders, if you have a background in organizational management, if
Mhm.
you know the individual who's taking out the money, up and down. And what I was doing is I was actually forming LLCs to close the property in for the fix and flipper, taking the
Yep.
money from my friends, from the PMLs that I knew, and being the one responsible for it. And then we had strong language inside of the agreements that if this fix and flipper cannot perform, thank you very much. I will take the property and I will continue doing it and, you know, actually do that because it is a risk. It is an
Oh, of
investment.
course,
It's a
there's a
risk.
risk in everything. There is a
Yeah.
risk in everything. Yeah, for sure. So now you have, do you have a team built up?
Just of JV folks. So I have a couple of unicorn agents in Colorado Springs, Denver, Milanazos, Brian Kennedy,
Oh, the
Annaport, Nova.
Milanazos are fantastical.
I know. Yeah, yeah, I love them.
Love
Yeah,
those.
I talk with them all the time. They're great, and several wholesalers that I work with, and then just working on the pillars. So your organization is dying or it's at least stagnating if you don't have deals coming in. And
Oh, yeah,
for co-living operators, it's the amount of properties that you are looking at and running. And it's not every property, it has to be the right properties.
of
Because we,
course.
we spoke about the rooms and we spoke about all of that, but we didn't speak about parking. But
Right.
if
That's
you're
right.
if you're talking about like Chicago and you're talking about young professionals, they might not need parking. They might just need to be next to the L, you know, something like that. So you really have to determine who you're going to serve and in what way you are going to serve them.
Yep.
And then you add people to your team. So the individuals that reach out to the nonprofit organizations, those are the ones that are filling the rooms of the house so that I can manage the house and then look at another house and fill that one. And then my PMLs, my PMPs, they're part of the team too. I notify, everybody gets notified of what's going on, expenditures, performance reports, all of that. So,
Nice.
mhm.
Very nice indeed. All right. So let me just ask you, what do you need in your immediate future? What can people help with? This is going to go, you know, on this coming Monday,
Mhm.
but it's going to be on for a while. So, talk to me about what you think you need um, in the near future. We're at in April um, of 2025, but what's the most immediate need that you have?
The most immediate need are the most immediate need are people that want to come along on the journey with me. People who want to give as few as $5,000. Fractional is a fantastic opportunity for people to get into the space. And I don't want to say I train you, but you get to see everything. You get to ask all of the questions. You get to understand inside and out the operations that I am conducting inside of these spaces. So yeah, in a way, it is training. It's
Right,
hands-on experience.
right.
That's the most immediate need.
Okay. And for those of you who don't know, fractional is a new concept. It's actually the name of a business that will allow people to come into investing at much smaller amounts. Like John said, $5,000. Normally, if you were wanted to get into real estate and you said, I have $5,000, there's a very limited amount that you could do. But what they do is they form like a mini fund in a way where they might put, let's say, you know, 20 people in this group. Well, that's 100 grand. Now you can do something. And they hold meetings. They take care of all the administration. So um, if John were to have a fractional group, it wouldn't be as hands-on as it would be if he was trying to do the fractional, which means you got to have lawyers, you got to have accountants, you got to have you know, um, all of the LLCs set up. There's a lot of stuff going on because you got to be careful. You're dealing with people's money. Instead, he can just go to fractional and say, I'd like to start a group. I want 20 and 30 people, whatever it is, and this is what the goal will be. And then John can reach out and say, come to fractional, let's have a meeting, show you how it works, and you can learn as you go along. So that's what fractional is. And it's opening up a door to be able to include investors that normally wouldn't have as much money to be interesting to someone like John. Because if you have to talk with 20 people, that's a lot of people to talk with. So I think that's a fantastic idea. Is this something in your future, or are you already doing it?
So I am already doing it. I already have PMLs that are reaching out to me, friends and family that are reaching out to me. I am currently looking for the right properties. I have, 24 different places that I have given out to my acquisition partners, JV partners, that are calling those agents, that are calling those sellers. Mostly single family. We also have a mixed use where there's four one
Nice.
bed, one baths on top of four commercial spaces
Very nice.
with
I love
land
mixed.
development. Oh yeah, it should be really good, and it's right on the strip too, so
Oh, nice.
it looks promising. And so really it's kind of fund the fund where we are trying to find individuals that are interested in the space before we actually have the property. So,
Will
and
you
I'm,
do it through
go ahead.
fractional?
Ideally, yes,
Okay.
because they have that option.
Yeah,
And,
because they're already set up. That's their business. That's really cool. Very nice. Okay, so John has his contact right there. Is this your IG? Is it your um, YouTube? Is it your Facebook? Talk to us. How do people get a hold of you?
so at John Riordan REI is my Facebook, my IG, and my YouTube channel, all platforms. So,
Nice.
mhm.
And John does have a podcast, right?
It's more conversational, a little less formal than this, but it depends.
Okay.
Every other week, I might move it to weekly,
Mhm.
and it's just people popping in and talking about what they're working on, questions that they have, and I am certainly not a know-it-all in this space. I learn just as much every time
Oh,
we have those conversations.
yeah. Come
So,
on. That's part of the thing of having a podcast is you get to learn by bringing other people on. So definitely go to YouTube and subscribe to him. By the way, if you haven't subscribed to mine, subscribe to mine too. Okay. I keep forgetting to say that. And, if you feel like there's some value added here, go ahead and subscribe and make comments. Make comments and likes and such. I love doing the podcasting, but I forget that marketing aspect sometimes. But go to John's and support him. And you might think, well, wait a minute, isn't he a competitor? The internet is big. We have room for everybody. We don't have to see it as competing. I see it
yeah.
as collaborating.
Do you have that other sheet that I gave you with the graphs? Because that's a
Uh,
really good point. I'm not sure if you got that one.
I probably did, but I'm not sure if I actually have it up.
That's fine. The long and the short is that as the population of the United States has grown, the amount of people that are sharing housing as non-family members has kept pace. So although you could view us as competitors, get that out of your mind because I have 25 veterans right now that are looking for spots.
Oh,
That's
totally.
at least four, well, three or four houses that I could purchase right now and have it cash flow easy. You
Right.
know,
This
um,
area, as John is saying, is at the very beginning in the States of being recognized and understood and is growing because it serves so many different needs. Um, the definition of family is also now being challenged in the courts thanks to Pad Split, which is one of the organizations that's leading the way in servicing uh, co-living properties. It's a platform, but they have lawyers and they're fighting all over the place to say you can't say that. Wait, they can't live together because they're not a family. What makes a family? It used to be that it had to be one way. No, so now they're referring to folks as members. They're members of a co-living group. So that's being changed, and it's growing like crazy. So um, there, frankly, even if it was a very limited thing, I personally feel that having this mic and having this show, and now going into the third year, um, I don't want to do it if I'm like, oh, don't talk to me, you're my competitor. That's stupid. I like to learn from you. I like to bring light to you. There's enough room on the internet for so many people. The internet is really just in its teenagehood. It's barely a young adult. So yeah, lots and lots of room. And we can benefit from learning from each other big time and helping each other. So definitely go to John's YouTube and subscribe. Help him to grow and keep learning. We're going to keep, like I said, I'm pivoting now. I'm going to continue to bring in people that have nothing to do with co-living or with raising capital and lending. But it will be much more common to be looking at co-living and at raising capital and lending. Those are the focuses that I have. So that's what I'm going to do. And, you know, it'll change a little bit. John, thank you.
Thank you so much, Evie, for having me.
Are you kidding?
Gratitude can't be, stated enough that what you are doing is just fantastic.
It goes both ways. I feel very honored and I feel very happy. And you can bet that if I'm in your area, I'll be like, hey, is he in town? I want to visit. But, thank you and let us know how it goes. And again, thank you for being where you are and help serving our country. That's a very, very important thing.
Thank you, Effie. Yeah, pleasure.
Okay, guys, again, please don't forget to go and support. We shall see you next time. Thanks, guys.